Welcome to Pier 40. The biophysical changes that this site has experienced over time have contributed to serious structural problems with the facility.
These biophysical changes have led to decreased value of the property and the structure as a whole. The environmental stressors that cause these biophysical changes are predominantly storm surges, but also sea level rise, precipitation, and the increased frequency of storms.
These biophysical dimensions that drive structural changes in the pier contributes to the constant social dynamism of Pier 40.
This graph helps to demonstrate the importance of storm surge and flooding events. Shown here are the 10 most extreme high water events in Lower Manhattan from the year 1900 to 2012, ending with Hurricane Sandy. There are 3 factors that contribute to these high water conditions. These include tide level, sea level rise, and storm surge. Tide levels have remained fairly constant, while sea level rise has generally increased over the years, as would be expected with global warming. Storm surge accounts for the remainder of these water levels and is the determining factor in the extent of these high water events. Storm surge is a stochastic element in that we don't necessarily know when we will experience the next storm, and until the storm hits, we don't know for sure how intense it will be. We can predict, though, that with continued climate change, the frequency and intensity of these storms will increase.
Pier 40 is constantly changing. The environmental stressors it experiences are persistent due to its general location within Flood Zone 1 and proximity to the water. With the structure being so dated, it becomes less resilient over time as necessary repairs and maintenance are not provided.
This image shows the positive feedback loop for structural degradation and financial issues that exists at Pier 40. The disturbances caused by various environmental stresses leads to the structural degradation of Pier 40. Structural degradation reduces the site's capacity for both equipment and patrons. This decreases patron attendance, which directly decreases the site's revenue. A loss in revenue contributes to a decrease in financial stability, which determines the site's ability to make necessary repairs. The inability to make these repairs causes increased structural degradation. This is because, as existing damage fails to be repaired, the existing damage worsens, while the site will accumulate new damage on top of that. The feedback is positive because with increased disturbance, the site continues to become more and more degraded.
Vulnerability is the extent to which the characteristics of a landscape, both physical and cultural, can be threatened by outside forces. Resilience is determined by how quickly and easily the landscape can return to its original state. From a structural, social, and ultimately financial point of view, the damages are staggering. Even prior to Hurricane Sandy, Pier 40 was in desperate need of structural repairs. Portions of the roof had already fallen in, and the piles which supported the pier were known to be in critical condition.
This becomes a vicious cycle for Pier 40. Damages sustained due to storm surges are then unable to be fully attended to, leading to long-term structural and cosmetic damages that affect how the space can be used profitably.
Pier 40's response to storm surges and the resulting change in the system are displayed through these images.
Several issues have led to the deterioration of this site, including marine boring worms, which have damaged the wooden pilings, delay in roof maintenance, which has resulted in damage to the site, 13 plus miles of steel support pilings that have been listed by engineers as being in critical condition, along with corrosion and power failures throughout the facility.
Last year, millions of visitors continued to visit the Hudson River Park, to fish, kayak, skateboard, to bike or jog, just to have the Hudson River Park as a beautiful backdrop. However, Pier 40 has struggled to upkeep, and the expense of caring for these structures built over the water has turned out to be far greater than they anticipated. Its waterfront location poses too many biophysical challenges, with its aging structures, subject to the intensity and frequency of storm surges, which drive down the cultural and social services as well as profitability. Pier 40 is governed by the Hudson River Park Act, which established the Hudson River Park Trust and Advisory Council. This board serves as a public benefit corporation and is in charge of all matters regarding the planning, design, construction, and operation of Pier 40. The trust relies on the income generated by the park, but evidently the biophysical forces and vulnerability shape our relationship with how we are able to use and manage this land and ultimately generate the revenue needed to sustain the park. These social and environmental processes that contribute to the constant change of how Pier 40 is used and managed is discernible evidence that shows how change is dynamic.
The increasing storm surges will ultimately determine how Pier 40 can and will be utilized in the future.